Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Bryan Adams. Bryan Adams is the co-founder and chief executive officer for Integrity Marketing Group and leads the day-to-day operations of the company. Bryan also serves on the board of directors of Integrity. With Integrity, he is on a mission to innovate insurance, making it easier for Americans to be served how and where they prefer. Bryan is considered one of the nation's leading experts in the senior market and speaks frequently across the country about the importance of helping families on one of the most difficult days of their lives. He consults with leading insurance companies to help them offer the best products to this market. Well, good afternoon, Bryan. Welcome to the show.
Well, hey, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here with you, my friend.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And I know that we're all struggling here in the greater part of the Midwest with this weather. So I appreciate you jumping on and sticking with us. I know it's super cold and a lot of snow. So, Bryan, let's jump into the questions here. I want to talk a little bit about your career. You've got quite the background in insurance marketing, and now you're the co-founder and CEO of Integrity Marketing Group. Could you just share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Yeah, I think I appreciate you having me on and being able to share this. I think really a lot of where my passion for insurance really came from how I grew up. My mom and dad owned funeral homes in West Texas. I grew up in a small town of 1,800 people in West Texas, and my mom and dad were the funeral directors in our county. In fact, really, they both worked in the business. And I remember coming home or growing up, sitting around the kitchen table, and my mom and dad talking about families that hadn't prepared for the inevitable, frankly, and they were talking about the impact that people would have on their funeral arrangements primarily. That's how how I originally got in insurance. I remember at an early age starting to think about the fact that it's amazing more people aren't planning for this in advance, and there's got to be better ways to do this. And so in college, I actually got recruited to sell life insurance door to door, frankly, in West Texas. I went to Texas Tech, and really my passion for helping people started when I was young. My dad really had a calling for the funeral industry and helping people, and so I saw that growing up. But then whenever I started selling life insurance in college, it was one of those things of being able to recognize the opportunity of helping people plan for a life event. And so really our passion and my whole drive and our mission here at Integrity is to help Americans plan for one of the toughest days of their life. And what that means for us is when someone is sitting at a hospital and they just found out that they had cancer, heart attack, stroke, COVID, or some major life event, we want to make sure we have a health insurance product there for them to take care of their need. Or when a family has to go into a nursing home and take a loved one into a nursing home, that's a devastating emotional time. And we want to take that financial burden off. And so we want to have long-term care, short-term care products there for the insurance-related needs for that type of event. Or at the end of life, when someone's sitting at a funeral home and having to make the emotional decisions of losing a loved one, but also having to pay for that, we want to take the financial burden off of that family through the life insurance products that we offer. And then we also want retirement to be a good experience, not a difficult experience. So we have retirement planning products that we also offer. And so our whole purpose at Integrity is to help Americans with one of those type of life events, to make sure that we're there for them in their time of need. And honestly, that passion really came from my childhood of seeing that firsthand when people would walk into my parents' funeral home and have to make those emotional decisions and really just being able to help people and serve people has really been, I think, our life calling and my life calling as part of this. And I'm really proud of the work we're able to do here at Integrity for sure.
I appreciate that share, Bryan. I really do. And I think your story has the human touch to it. And I think it would resonate with a lot of people. So thank you. And Bryan, as you know, everybody globally has had to make these major shifts to adapt to the new normal. Could you share with us what you're doing to help your organization stay relevant in this economy?
Yeah, I think it's really an interesting point. Integrity is in the life and health insurance business. And we really, through this COVID pandemic, one of the things that we were recognized as, and our industry was recognized as an essential business, part of the government's definition, that this is part of, we're an essential worker effectively. And the fact that people need life and health insurance today more than ever really became relevant in this time. In fact, every day as people would turn on the TV, and still as they turn on the TV, they were faced with their own health and the concern about getting and catching COVID or passing away from it. And every day they were faced with their own mortality effectively there. And so integrity, one of the things that we did was we rallied together. Now we worked remote. One of the things that we made early on was a commitment to our staff not to make any layoffs during that time, to make sure that they knew that we were here for them. We knew that we were going to come out on this stronger than ever, and that people would really need us more than they ever probably realized before. And so I'm proud to say that we really rallied as a team at Integrity, all of our employees, and really served our agents and helped them get more creative, looking for ways to invest in better technology and services to help them be more successful, but also be able to reach more consumers. And in 2020, we had a record year. We actually grew in excess of 100% this year. We're already a large company, but growing at that rate during the global pandemic really shows just the importance of kind of what we do in society for sure.
I appreciate the share on that. And it's good news to hear that your organization was able to weather this storm thus far. And Bryan, this is a big question for our audience, especially it really resonates with me being in technology. Are you leveraging any new or emerging tech in your business? And if not, anything you see industry specific that might positively impact your business in the near future?
Yeah, so I think technology is vital for us to all stay ahead of the game and really, frankly, just serve our core mission of serving people. And so we're investing heavily in technology. In fact, we just partnered with a group, acquired a business just recently that is a quoting engine and software technology that allows our agents in the field to more quickly and accurately quote the lowest price products available to people for their healthcare needs. And that was a major investment for us to make it more efficient for our agents in the field when they're working with the end consumer to make sure that they're getting the best price available, but also the most appropriate products for their need. So that's one example, and we're continuing to invest in how do we build out that software? How do we build out that technology to be even more successful? And then in addition to that, we launched during COVID, our teams really, after we went into the kind of the working remote time in March, we really rallied our troops to start looking for ways to create new enrollment technologies. And so we rolled out a online and electronic enrollment technology for our agents to be able to utilize so that we could be able to help our clients in whether it was in person, on the phone, or online. And we created really an entire enrollment tool from scratch during that period. And we're able to launch that for our annual enrollment period, which starts in October of each year. And we ended up having a record annual enrollment period. I think it was a large part to do with being able to be investing ahead of the curve and making sure that we were really trying to see around the corner and make sure that we had the right technology and systems available for our team so that they could help even more consumers.
I appreciate the share on that. That's important to leverage some of that technology now to make the help lower costs and also be more efficient with our process to make a better customer experience. So Bryan, last question here. Our audience wants to know a little bit about you as we wrap up here. Can you share something from your career experience that would be helpful for those looking to grow their career in either marketing or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And first of all, I love just the opportunity that we have as entrepreneurs to really find problems in the market and be able to find solutions. And in this society, we're able to really go out and create anything that can really help people. And I think it's the biggest piece of advice that I would have for anyone who's thinking about getting into business or starting a business is not to focus on the money. And I know that sounds, I mean, you hear people say this all the time, but that's a byproduct, right? And money will always follow good solutions and good service. And I think too often entrepreneurs really focus on how am I going to make money and not really focusing on how do I help people. And one of the things I really just I encourage people to think about is, how do you look for ways to really serve others? And if you do that, you can accomplish anything. And as I mentioned, I grew up in West Texas. It's where I grew up around Lubbock, Texas. It's cotton fields everywhere. And I remember whenever I started Integrity, and whenever I started out of my house, and I remember the early days were tough, man. I mean, it's tough to start a business. However, and I was really frustrated that the income and the sales weren't coming fast enough to really pay for all the expenses that we were incurring. And I remember going back home, and one of my best friends growing up has been my best friend since I was 5 years old, a guy named Bubba. And Bubba's a huge cotton farmer out there. And I remember sitting around talking to Bubba, talking about just the frustration that I had. And I know that many entrepreneurs have the same frustration about the fact that the outcome wasn't coming fast enough, right? And Bubba, and he's about 6'5", good old country boy, said, "Well, man, you're focusing on the wrong thing. There is a natural order to things, and it's just like farming." And as we stood out in his cotton field, we talked about the natural order of the agrarian model, as I call it, but it's just the same as really business. Is if you're going to be a farmer, you've got to focus on first preparing the soil, making sure that the field is prepared and ready and all leveled out and plowed and those of that nature. And then you got to plant the seed. You don't plant just one or two seeds. You plant thousands or tens of thousands of seeds. And then you've got to water those seeds, and you've got to nurture it, and you got to protect it from the elements and things of that nature. And then you've got to harvest it as it grows up. You've got to, at some point, you got to get out in the field and harvest it. If you miss any one of those steps, then you're not going to have a crop, right? And so what most people think about is they think about the success part of it. But as Bubba told me out in the field that day, is you've got to think about the things you can control. And it's the preparing of the field, it's the planting of the seed, it's the nurturing of the crop, and it's getting out and harvesting that crop whenever it's ready. And if you miss any one of those times, if you miss any one of those steps, then you won't ever be successful. And so one of the things I've really taken to heart is focusing on all of the things you can control, spending crazy amounts of effort and energy around the things that you can control. And at some point, you've got to trust a higher power as well, that there's not going to be some crazy weather or some event that you can't control. But then the market will determine at the end of the day whether they want to buy your crop or not, right? You can't determine whether people want to buy your crop. It's, did you do all the things that were in your control? So the one piece of advice I would have or maybe a couple of pieces of advice I'd have to entrepreneurs is focus on things you're passionate about, right? Farmers don't get up and build a great farm by not loving what they do. And I think you got to find something that you just love and that you're passionate about. And for me, that's serving others. And then secondly, you got to focus on the things that you can control and do each one of those steps as well as you can. Be as dedicated each one of those steps and give that your all. And then the outcome is just a byproduct, right? It's a byproduct of being able to do those things. And not everything works. And so don't be afraid of keep trying. And so I know that's a long answer to your short question, but I think people all too often, especially as they think about kind of the excitement of being an entrepreneur, don't realize how dirty of a work it is, just like working on a farm.
I think that's a great analogy, Bryan, honestly. And I think that would resonate with a lot of people here, those that are entrepreneurs and just technologists and people that work in marketing as well. So, Bryan, I appreciate the share on that. And I just want to let you know it was a pleasure having you on today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Man, it was my honor. I really appreciate you. God bless you, buddy. Thanks for having me on today.
Bye for now.